Joy, welcome back. Today I have a project for scrappytails crafts. I am using the Popping Poppies stamp set. Try to say that fast 3 times. Anyway, this was released back in January of 2021. I had to have it and then I never used it. Do you ever have that issue? I'd love to know if you suffer from the same thing. Anyhow, I love this stamp set and like I said, I had to have it. So I am taking it back old school. I broke out my acrylic block and I am taking the individual poppy images from the stamp set and I am stamping those down using Eclipse ink from Maker Forte. And I am just staggering those around the border of an A2 sized card panel. And I'm doing that because I'm sort of making my own pattern paper without having to go extreme and do the whole panel. So it's really important that you kind of put those down in odd numbers. I usually try to do about three images per. And then to fill in some of the blanks, I took the leaf image and just pointed those in between the flowers. I know that that sounds like a dumb way to describe it, but that's exactly what I did. And you're going to see that this turns out to be a really cool card despite that. Now I do bring in my Misty because I am going to do multiple stamping of the different poppy images. And the reason I am doing multiples of each, I am going to Copic color these flowers. I'm going to layer them on top of each other and I'm going to make a dimensional scene per se with I guess a floral arrangement is the way to put it. So my cards, I'm doing an A2 card, which is what I was working on before, and then I'm going to bring in a mini slimline card, and I made that a more modern design, and we'll get into that as we get into the stamping. So like I said, I am using my Misty so that I can kind of turn my pages around so I can get all of the images on. And then I am using an ink smushing tool just so that I don't have to do CPR on my stamps. And then because I am using black ink in between stamping new ones, I clean that off with a, believe it or not, a car wash chamois. I find that those work the best. They don't get stinky. Because some of the cloths that I have used do. And I just keep that damp in a bag on my desk, believe it or not. So I've been asked a couple times about what kind of chamois I use, and this is a good old XL absorber from Walmart in the car department. So there you have it. I do stamp down a couple of the leaves because I am going to make a arrangement and what flower is complete without a little bit of foliage, right? So that's kind of what I'm working on. I kept this sped up only by about 2 times just so that you would see the amount of stamping I did and how long it actually took. In reality, I want to say before editing, my video was about an hour to make 2 cards, so if that gives you kind of a perspective on that. And then when I go into the Copic coloring, I don't Copic color that fast, but I sped that up by 4 times just for the interest of time and not losing your attention, if that makes any sense, because I am respectful that you don't have to be here with me and that you can watch a million other people and you can do a lot of other errands. So I am extremely thankful for all of your love and support. And if you do like what I'm doing so far, I would really appreciate you considering liking and subscribing to my channel and even hitting that bell so that you get the notification when my next card comes out. That just helps build my channel a little bit, which obviously I am in the process of doing as my channel's new. So now I am bringing in my Copic markers. For my foliage, I use the colors YG01, 03, 17, and 67. I wet the paper with the 01 just so that I get a good blend. And then I go in with my YG67 and I map out my texture areas and shadows. And I'm trying to keep that shadow on the left hand side. And then I go in with the YG17 and I blend that out, and then I go over the entire thing with a YG03. And since Copics are translucent, you have the capability of layering the colors. Now, did you see that blob? I had overfilled my markers, and a way to keep the blob from happening is to take both caps off of your markers. I typically do not use this blend for reds for whatever reason, even though I like it. So my R17 marker is extremely wet, so you'll see from here on out that I keep the cap off of that marker. So for my poppies, I use an R11, 12, 14, and 17. So I do a wash with the 11, and you'll notice that I don't go all the way to the tips because I want that to be a highlight. I have a heavy hand, so I find that if I leave a lot of white space, by the time I'm done, I have just enough for a highlight. So then I go in with my R17 and I go and I map out where the shadows would be, where the petals are laying on top of each other. And then I do my concentrated color right around the center of the poppy. Then I blend that in with the 14, followed by the 12. And I don't think I go back in with the 11 on this flower. Now, I wanted the dark center that a poppy is known for. So I went in with a BV 23 and 25 just to get that. And I left a little bit of white space, and I also dotted in that R17 in the center. Now I am moving on to the more open flower. So that was kind of tricky to get a good color gradient. So I went ahead and I mapped out where the shadow of the first ring would be. And then I go and work on the inside. And with that, I go in real heavy with that R17. And then I follow that up with the R14. Now, because I wanted that center to be much darker than the outside of the flower, I did a tip-to-tip technique. So I took my R12 and I went to the tip of the R14, and that is how I got that gradient color, and I just keep building that up. I never clean my markers because I like all the little nuggets that kind of dry on my plastic part of my nib, because then that way I can do the tip to tip and I actually don't have to go tip to tip. I can go tip to the dried gross part. And then for the outer part of the flower, I stuck with the R14 and the R12. And then that is when I went back in the center with that BV 23 and 25 to get that great shadow. And then once I had all of my items colored, I ran that through my scan and cut to die cut them. Now you're going to see I'm working on the A2 card, and I take an A2 base and I apply that stamped card panel to make my background. And then I take a, I think it's 3 3/4 by 5 black panel, and I pop that up on foam tape. And of course I used my wet glue to keep, so that I had a little bit of wiggle room. And then I put my focal panel on there, and you're going to see that I had stamped the scene, but I only colored that with my lightest color being the R11 just because I am going to layer these. Another trick that I do to get a little bit more dimension is I take a round bone folder and I kind of bend my leaves just to get some dimension. You can do that with a pen, you can do that with a pencil. I just happen to have a round bone folder, that's why I used it. And then you're going to see me kind of struggle here for a second trying to figure out how I wanted my arrangement. I originally wanted to cut off the bottom of those of flowers so that I wouldn't have them overhanging the actual frame. But I didn't think about that when I was constructing the card, to be honest with you. So I decided to go with foam tape, and I, overlapped them. And then I realized that my two outside flowers were going to be the same height or even taller than my center. And fortunately for me, I made a second flower, the second middle flower. So I take yet another layer of foam tape and I pop up that flower. So I think you could get by with mailing this. You might have to put extra postage on it. Typically, if I mail a card, it's to someone special, and I don't mind putting an extra stamp on it. I think it would need like a 20-cent stamp. I don't waste my time, and I just put on another first-class stamp. But you can do whatever you want. Or you could mail it in a bubble envelope, but that's going to cost you some money, and I'm not into that. So you see me still kind of fidgeting. I'm not sure what I'm going to do, and I think I've already told you that I finally end up popping up that center flower, and that makes me extremely happy. And then I adhere the last few of the leaves to make my scene. I wasn't sure how I was going to love this card, but this ends up being my favorite. I am a sucker for a classic trio of flowers on a card, and this makes my heart sing. I know that sounds funny, but I really do love this card, and I love the dimension that I got on it. I came in with a white gel pen to add some highlights in the center, and then I used some silver gems that I had in my stash, and I just scattered those around. I can fidget with gems forever. So now I am coming in with my mini slimline, and my mini slimline is going to measure, I think, 3.25 by 6.25. I have some A2 thin frame dies. I believe they're from Honeybee. And so I was able to take all of my rectangles apart and get to that, and I die cut it twice, so that way I would get two that were exactly the same size. And what I did was I glued them so that they would be equal spaces, so that's how I got the 3 layers or 3 levels on my card. So next, I go in with my Misty, and I use the high stamp from the Poppies. And I do ink that up about 3 times because I am using textured paper, and textured paper doesn't always take the first inking very well. And on top of that, this has got a little bit of a slip to it as well. So I just wanted to make sure that I got a good impression with that. And I did heat it with my heat gun, just because it was a slick surface. And then, of course, I pop up that panel, as I always do, and put that onto a white mini slimline card base. And from there, I arranged the 3 poppies that you saw me color previously. And I pretty much did all of my coloring exactly the same with the same colors. And now I'm just taking foam squares, and I am popping those up. And you're going to see I kind of hid my sentiment, so I peel that up very, very carefully, and I move that. And because that is a slick cardstock, I got by with it without ripping my paper. Thank goodness for that. And then I put the last flower up in the corner, and here I go again. I start fidgeting with the gems. So if you like these cards, they're very different. One is very traditional, the other one's more of a modern style. And that's what I love about our stamps, that we can stretch them to be any style that we want them. We can color them with any medium. There's such diversity in our craft, and if you would like to see another project with the stamp set, I would be glad to do one. I can use a different medium, a different shaped card. I could anything that you would like. Drop me a comment below and tell me what you would like to see next, and I will try to fulfill that, if you don't mind. And again, I know that I've already said this, but I thank you so much for sticking with me to the end. And if you wouldn't mind liking and subscribing to my channel, I would truly appreciate it. I just love you guys. I love card making, and I love some scrappy tails. So here are the final pictures of my project. I think that they're stunning. They're different. You let me know what you think. So until next time, keep crafting, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.